Hi, this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle, and we're going to rebuild a South Bend 730A. It's part of gladding at this point. It reads gladding group on the back wheel foot, and we're going to see what we can do to help Scott out with this one. This is a flea market find of Scott's. Very, very sluggish. It's hard to turn, and that's usually an indication of dried or old grease. So we're going to show you how to take this reel apart. We'll show you how it's made. It's a rather simple reel. We'll show you how to take it apart, how to service it, and how to restore itself to maximum performance so that it can go fishing again and have a second chance. Well, we're going to start by removing the exterior pieces. And as we do, I'm going to encourage you to subscribe to my channel if you like the art of fishing reel service and repair, if you like it as a hobby, or if, well, maybe you just have a reel and you're looking to learn a little bit more about, well, that's kind of what I cover in the channel, in addition to taking reels apart and putting them back together again, cleaned and serviced. So I would encourage you to subscribe, and if you do subscribe, please hit that notification button. That will enable you to see when I post the videos, and well, you can make a judgment as to whether you want to watch that particular video. I work on all kinds of reels. Some of them may appeal to you, some may not, and well, you can skip the ones that don't and watch the ones that do. That's your choice. All right, we're going to take these 3 case screws out here. That's going to enable me to take the side plate out. The side plate is connected by the 3 screws, and well, there's why the reel is not performing very well. It's old grease that's just become, well, pretty much clogged and tarred and kind of just jammed up here. So that's the issue, and we're going to go about servicing and cleaning that and restoring this reel to the best that it can be. Well, I just wanted to wipe off a little bit here so that I can take out the screw that's holding the crosswind block in, because you want to remove the axle shaft, and to do that you need to remove this screw. And all the pieces and parts I take off, I put into a parts tray. That way I know where they are when I go to reinstall. You'll also notice I'm wearing a protective glove on my hand, well, just for situations like this. This grease, I have no idea what's in that grease, and I prefer to keep it off of my hands if possible. We'll do the same thing here. We're going to remove that crosswind block. You can just see old grease, and grease is great when it's fresh, when it has that lubricating process to priorities to it, but as it starts to dry, it becomes tar-like, and when the tar sets in, well, it's just you're fighting against the grease rather than it helping you. I just reached over to grab a cotton swab. I'm going to use that to clean out the crosswind block. You'll notice I try to trap most of the old grease onto a paper towel, and use that to wipe it down so that I don't transfer this to my work surface, so it doesn't impact the next project in. I got a little bit more grease in there, so let's get that out. And do the best you can to clean it up. If you need an assist, a penetrating oil like a WD-40 as a general degreaser will work just fine. When I go to remove the main gear, I like to make sure that that anti-reverse dog is in the off position. Pull it away from that gear so that you can remove the gear. And if there is a spring attachment or something like this, and I've been asked to show this because people take this off and they tend to remove pieces and then say, well, where does that anti-reverse spring go, for example? And this is a good time to tell you to take pictures before you go too far. The anti-reverse spring bottom is lodged in a case here. It wraps around this stud, comes out the other side, and there is kind of a squared off end here that holds onto the shoulder. And then this is the override tab. When you move it to the one side, it'll allow the dog to go in and flex, and when you override it, it pushes it out and away from that gear. Well, where's that stopping the gear? It's stopping it in the click ratchet on the back of the main gear. All right, we're going to continue here. We're going to wipe what we can off of that. Time for a new paper towel. And gladding, gladding is an interesting company. Gladding is still around today, but I don't believe they're making the braided lines or anything anymore, any of the fishing products. They started out making, well, rope and cord and the like. And over time, time they started doing the fishing lines, and then after the fishing lines, they got into the reels by acquiring South Bend, and that's what you see here, South Bend Gliding Corp. And then eventually they went into bankruptcy, and when they exited bankruptcy, they didn't have the line anymore. I think the line may have been sold to, I think it's Bighorn Products maybe, out of Illinois. Not quite sure. You still see South Bend around today. South Bend has got a line called R2F, Ready to Fish. I think it's Bighorn. It could be something else. But at any rate, the brand continues on today, and but not necessarily the reels. I'm going to take a look in a moment. I'm not sure where this reel was made. It is possible that it was made in Japan. Let's see if we got it on there. It's kind of hard to see. Hong Kong, I think. Okay, made in Hong Kong. All right, well, we've cleaned the main gear out. When you do that, you want to inspect all of the teeth, make sure that they're uniform, both from the ridge standpoint and then look at this from the peak standpoint. Because if they're worn either way, you're going to get a gear chatter or a skip. So inspect what you can while you can. We have a little washer that came off there that's going to go in the case, so just make sure you recognize that. That came out when I was wiping the grease. And then we have a little bit more cleanup there, but we want to come up top now. We want to take that rotor off. The rotor looks to be a 10 millimeter, and I keep a group of deep sockets right on my desk. That way, when it's time to go use them, I know where they are. They're close at hand, and I don't really need to do anything to put the reel down and go off and look for something. I think that's probably it. And this one is a little loose, so I don't need to do much with that. You can see how it just came off here. You may need the extension arm or the like, maybe not. All right, to remove the rotor after you've taken the nut off, it's simply a hand tighten. So hold your hand on that pinion gear, grab it, there you go, and then you can unscrew the rotor. Now if you're having trouble with that, this one was a little loose. If you're having trouble with that, then you have two options. One of them really is to leave it alone. There's nothing in there. There's no ball bearings. There's nothing of any consequence. So if you leave it alone, well, you're only risking doing something like this, where we have some grease that's trapped underneath here that we're trying to clean out. But other than that, you're not doing too badly if you don't touch it. The other option is to be gentle in trying to hold the pinion gear that you just sort of unscrew from. Maybe grab the bottom here, and it's teeth, so you really can't. And not only is it teeth, it's kind of a weak metal. We called it pot metal at the time. It's just some kind of mystery alloy. But if you grab it hard with any kind of device like a pliers or that, you're risking scarring these teeth. Well, how do you do it then? Well, one of the things you can do is find padding. Maybe a kitchen scrubby, maybe some steel wool, and then where's those pliers? Oh, there they are. Grab a pair of pliers and use that to kind of hold it in place as you do it, something like that. But again, you really had not any major risk here if you just let that one be, because there's nothing underneath it there to worry about terribly. If it had a ball bearing in there, if you were getting bearing noises, things like that, then you're certainly going to want to go in there and replace that piece, or at least clean it up. But for the most part, if you're having a struggle with it at the risk of ruining the gear or ruining the reel, then you probably would want to just kind of let it be. All right, we're almost done cleaning this. I'm going to hit this with a spray of penetrating oil here. That's just kind of acting as a solvent to get the rest of this cleaned up. These reels are very dependable. They're rather simple reels. That's one of the reasons why they're dependable. There's not a lot of moving parts. There's not a lot that can break. These are freshwater reels, so you're not really going to be battling those really heavy fish that would put a strain on it. So I think, you know, the right amount of cleaning and the right amount of lubrication, these things can just keep going fishing and fishing and fishing. All right, I'm taking my oils now. I'm oiling the sides of the bail attachments, and I'm just working it in. If that bail spring is working, you do not need to take the bail spring off. I get a lot of reels in here from folks that have taken the bail spring off and then couldn't figure out how to put it back on. No need to do that if your bail is flipping. Of course, if you drop the reel in the sand, or if you've done other things, maybe dunked it into water and caused some debris or something to get inside that bail, of course you want to take that off and clean that up. But if it's just a matter of a normal service and your bail's been operating fine, don't need to do that. All right, I've lubed that up. I'm going to reinsert that into the case. I'm going to work this backwards now. We're going to take the rotor, and this one goes, it's a reverse thread, so it goes back in by turning this rotor counterclockwise. Just like that, holding it tight again, and because it's going to be spinning in this direction, any pressure to take it out is opposite, so it's going to hold that tight. Once you've tightened your bowl on the rotor, go ahead and get that rotor nut. Remember, this is a reverse thread, so this is going to go on just like your rotor did in a counterclockwise manner. Then go ahead and get your 10mm wrench, and if you like a little bit of extra tightening, go ahead and get your ratchet and make that last quarter turn. I'm going to test it out now. It's a good idea. Spin it. It's spinning nicely. And we can go on now to the internal assembly. Find your crosswind block. Get a little bit of grease and get it into the slot on the crosswind block and the face. You can also put a little grease onto both of those little runners inside the case, which is where the back of this crosswind block rides. You're going to install the crosswind block. Hopefully you took pictures, and that's helped to eliminate any questions you may have. But the crosswind block's screw hole belongs on the bottom. If you took some pictures along the way, well, you probably would have known that. If you didn't take pictures and you put it in upside down, well, you'd have a problem. That little nub here would be banging against the pinion gear when it was time to make the top end of the stroke. I'm going to find that little screw that goes in there. It's a flat-headed screw. It was in my parts tray. It was one of the first pieces we took off. And you're going to tighten that down to set the crosswind block onto the axle shaft. Well, if you have questions on this reel or any reel in particular, if you leave them in the comments section, I'll try and answer them for you. And maybe we'll get you unstuck. Maybe we'll tell you a little bit more about the history of the reel. Whatever, we'll try to do what we can to answer your question. All right, well, we've just greased up the main gear, put it with nice fresh grease now. I'm going to put a little bit on the back. And before, when I noticed that little plastic washer was out, I put it on top of that when I put it back into my case. Find the stud, find the slot in the crosswind block. Take the stud visually, you can see how it merges in, and then move it up so that it interfaces with the pinion gear. Next up then would be the side case. Before you close up the side case, a little drop of oil onto the anti-reverse dog and onto that eccentric cam that operates that, and then we can just kind of snap that back in and align the holes in the case. I use a little pick for demonstration purposes, but you can use that pick as an alignment tool as well. There's 3 case screws. We're going to put the top one in the corner there to hold it first. That way that main gear is not going to slip out of the pinion gear. Now it doesn't appear that I'm completely lined up there. Let's try this again. Patience is kind of a key when you're doing this. Sometimes when I start to do these things for the camera, well, it's not natural to how I would do it. It's becoming more natural, I guess, with the more videos I do. but from time to time you just have to bear with me. Something may not seat right, and that's because I'm kind of doing it opposite the way I might. I'm going to go down bottom for that second screw. Usually with 3 screws are triangular, and it doesn't matter which way you mount them, but in this case I want 1 screw above the main gear and 1 screw below the main gear, and then we'll put the last one on here. And we'll go up top, we'll service the drag washers. I'm not quite sure if we have felt drag washers in this or what we have, so we'll go ahead and do the service. It doesn't take that much more time, and if you're servicing your reel, well, you want to go ahead and do that. So I'm going to grab that pick again. It's kind of my go-to tool for a lot of things. You'll see that there's a little slot here. Slide your pick behind that circular clip. Kind of work that clip out. This clip's got a lot of tension on it. That's interesting. There we go. So that's your clip. Don't lose it. If you do lose it, well, there's not much going on there. You don't have to worry terribly. It's just a retainer clip. It doesn't have an effect on how the drag operates. But if you lose your drag knob, you're probably going to lose your drag stack as well. We just took that towel and cleaned off all the interiors. And here we go. The bottom of the stack, I inverted that as I took it out, as a wavy washer. That goes in first. The next up is what's called an eared washer. That has 2 points on it. That eared washer sits in the 2 side cavities that we conveniently use to pry out that clip. The next one is a Teflon washer. All you need to do is make sure it's clean and free of debris. There's no sense oiling it. It does not absorb oil. So just let that go. And then the top one, it's got that D-shaped circle to it. And that's going to fit into a groove in the axle shaft. To reset that clip then, put one side in. And then just kind of work it around. There's a slot that it fits in. This one's a particularly strong clip. Most of the time you can put them in by hand. We were able to do that. And then when you go to mount that onto your shaft, find the slot in the axle shaft right there. You might be able to see it. It might not. It's tough on camera. And that's where this little piece goes in that D shape. And we got it right the first time, just shooting it right in there. Next up then would be the tension knob. Go ahead and tighten that down, make sure that it holds tight. That drag stack with the 1 washer is also an indication of what this reel was intended to fish for. It just does not have a lot of drag in there because, well, it's intended to be a freshwater reel. Well, let's take a look now. We're going to reset the anti-reverse dog to make sure that's in place. Make sure the handle's nice and tight. Give it a ride. Well, what a difference a little bit of cleaning and a little bit of lubrication can do with a fishing reel. So this one again, it's the South Bend 730A, part of the Gladding Group. Gladding Group was in Upper New York State, and this one's ready to go fishing again. So Scott, you had a nice flea market find there, and this one's ready to go catch the next fish. So I hope you've all enjoyed that. If you did, please like it. Again, if you want to see more of these, please subscribe. And to our first responders, thank you for everything it is that you do to keep us safe. To everybody, have a great day. Good luck fishing, and please stay watching. This is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle.